Hello, this is Lon Safko, author of the Social Media Bible and now the Fusion Marketing Bible. And in this presentation, we're going to talk about the top 20 excuses why you can't do social media. Yes, it's tongue-in-cheek, but there's a lot of information in here. Just by looking at it a little bit differently, it's going to present new information that you probably never thought of. And I think some of it is kind of fun. So let's get started. First off, this is a little bit about my background. I'm sure you've seen this slide before if you've seen any of my presentations. The reason I put this up is to let you know that I'm an author. Yes, that's true. Best-selling author. Both books hit #1 on Amazon, which I'm really proud of. But I'm a small business owner. I'm a business person first. The reason that I got involved in social media and fusion marketing is because I really wanted to know the cutting edge marketing techniques so that I can have a competitive advantage over any other companies that I compete with. So as you listen to any of my presentations, you'll realize that it's about marketing, it's about having a competitive edge, and it's about generating revenue. Excuse number 20, and you hear this all the time. I suffer from information overload already. And I love this cartoon. It says, "I'm sorry, it appears Mr. Mitchell won't be accepting any more information today." Well, we all feel that way. We're all overloaded. And that's part of the problem that social media kind of dropped on us, is that we have so many more responsibilities, so many different ways to communicate with our customers, our prospects, our colleagues, that we are in information overload. So what I have to insist on at this point is that you create systems within all of your information where you can monitor it more easily. For example, skim your email messages first. That's what I do. Every morning I look through my email messages. I pick out all of the messages that may be spam or stuff that I'm not interested in. I simply hit delete. I hit delete, 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 delete. And the ones that are left are the ones that I need to focus on. So then I can focus my attention on just those. And the amount of work that I have to do is much less because I've already weeded out probably more than half. The next thing is that you can set up spam filters. Now you can set up spam filters pretty much everywhere. Email is probably the most important. You can do that right within Outlook or whatever your email program is. Or if you're using a company like GoDaddy or Bluehost, you can actually set up spam filters that are fairly sophisticated and really accurate. And you could do it at what they call the ISP, or the Internet Service Provider level. So a lot of the email, I find that when I get it tweaked just right, I really don't lose any important messages, but I do cut out an awful lot of junk that comes into my email box that I just don't even have to deal with. The other thing is unsubscribe, unfollow, and unfriend. If you've got people that are telling you about their cat or exchanging chocolate chip cookie recipes, or for Lord's sakes, pictures of their grandkids, unsubscribe. If you're using social networks as a business tool, as a business platform to convert prospects into customers, to generate relationships that lead to trust, that eventually generates revenue, then you don't have time for that nonsense. I don't. I don't use Facebook to talk to high school friends. I don't care. I'll pick up the phone and I'll call them. I use Facebook for business. I use LinkedIn. I use Twitter for business. So take a look at the type of tweets that you're getting from a particular individual. And if they're nonsense, if they're spammy, then unfollow them. And the same thing goes for all of your social networks. Get rid of the people that aren't giving you any value. And remember, the reverse is absolutely true as well. If you're not providing value, if you're talking about your cat chasing the flashlight or the laser across the floor, you know what? I'm going to unfollow you because I really don't care. I want things from you that I can use in my business that's going to benefit me. So think about that from both perspectives. And don't read every tweet and wall posting. Skim. Glance down. Get your messages once a day and just skim down through them. I don't respond every time someone sends me out some nonsense Facebook message. I'll do it once a day, maybe once every other day, and sometimes even longer. I manage my time and I manage this information that comes in. And you need to think of it that way. The other thing that's really helpful is using aggregators, pulling all your information into one place so that you could see it at one time. For example, Google Alerts. I have lots of Google Alerts set up. They come in once a day in the morning in my email so that I glance through them. I thumb down through the different Google Alerts for each of the keyword phrases that I've asked it to check. And I can do it in just a couple of seconds. I either follow up on them, I hit delete, or I save it, and then I'm done. I'm done for the day. I'm not going to be aggravated with 10, 20, 30 Google Alerts throughout the course of the day. If I'm following a blog, I'm going to use a page that's going to automatically pull that in by using RSS, really simple syndication. And if you don't know what that is, just Google it, and you'll find that you can pull in all kinds of information into just one landing page so that you can browse it all at one time. It's really a lot more efficient and effective that way. And you know what? I'm sorry. Get used to it. We said the same thing when email came out. We said, oh my gosh, we've got snail mail, we've got telephone solicitation, I've got my voice messages that I got to deal with, and now I got to deal with this new thing called email. Well, yeah, and you probably learned that you can't live without it. I cherish my email. I have possibly 170 simultaneous conversations going on all at the same time. And now we've got all of this information coming in from Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and every other social network that we're on. Well, again, you got to kind of get used to it. You got to deal with it. So don't complain. Just get organized. Cut down on the nonsense. Unsubscribe, unfollow, unfriend, set up spam filters, and get all your information to come in to one location so that you can browse it really quickly. And you can deal with it. Trust me. Excuse number 19. I'm in no hurry, or I have no desire. I hear that all the time, especially from the larger companies. We're in no hurry. What we've done has always worked. And I'm just not into Facebook. If I've heard that once, I've heard it 100 times. Believe it or not, if you say, I'm just not into Facebook, well, guess what? This isn't about you. This is about your customers. This is about your prospects. They are into Facebook. When you have 1 billion, with a B, 1 billion active members on Facebook, your customers and your prospects are there. And if they're looking for you to have a conversation, to build a relationship, and you're not there, you're missing the boat. And the real worry is your competitors probably are there. They're not waiting. They are in a hurry. They want to establish themselves. They want to increase revenue. They want to connect with prospects. They want to build those relationships so that when those prospects are ready to convert to customers, that they're going to convert with that company. So if for no other reason, if you're not into it, you need to be aware that your competitors are. So, and what is the cost of missed opportunities? The great thing about social media is there's no out-of-pocket cost. Yes, it takes time because you still have to implement it, but you're not making huge multi-$100,000 media buys. It's all free. So what's the cost of one missed opportunity? One really good, solid customer in exchange for sending out a couple of tweets or making a couple of Facebook wall postings. I mean, think about it. All you need to do is pick up one customer, and you probably more than compensated for the time that you've put in on whatever social network that generated that customer. And believe it or not, this isn't about you. As I said earlier, you're not into Facebook. Well, too bad for you. It doesn't matter whether you're into Facebook. It doesn't matter whether you like LinkedIn. It doesn't matter if you are into Twitter. Your customers are. So you need to respect that if you're going to resell your customers or convert prospects into customers. And your customers are not only expecting, but they're demanding. They're insisting that you're actually out there. Any company that isn't out there is missing all of these opportunities. When your customers, when your prospects have a question, are ready to buy, and they go to Facebook because that's where they like to hang out. That's where they communicate with their friends and the businesses that they work with, and you're simply not there or not in the game, they're going to go with whoever is. It's just that simple. It's about being where your customers are. Excuse number 18. We tried it and it didn't work. I hear this a lot. Tried this social media, but how long did you try it? If you took out one newspaper ad and then didn't do anything else and sat by the phone and expected it to ring off the hook, there's something wrong with you if you believe that that's going to actually happen. It's not going to. You have to work it. You have to participate in it. You have to get people used to you being there. This isn't an overnight success. Social media is awesome because it's extremely effective. It gets to an awful lot of people. It does it nearly for free. No out-of-pocket expense, just the time that you have to put into it. But you have to give it time for people to find it, for people to catch on, to refer a friend. And then the next thing is, do you have a strategy in place? Facebook is not a strategy. LinkedIn is not a strategy. Twitter is not a strategy. And there's so many companies, it's absolutely ridiculous, that think that it is. Just because you have 50,000 followers on Facebook, how are you monetizing it? What are you doing with that? You have to have a strategy. You got to know how to use that. All of these are tools. Facebook is a tool, not a strategy. LinkedIn is a tool, not a strategy. Twitter is a tool. It's not a strategy. So you create a strategy. What do you want to accomplish with your company, with your marketing plan for next quarter, next year? And then you look at each of these tools to see how you can use that tool to achieve that objective. So the most important thing is that if you want to see social media work, you need to understand by building the tools without a strategy isn't going to do you any good whatsoever. What was that strategy? What strategy did you use if you had one? Was it sound? Did you create 3, 4, 5 solid objectives? Pick the right tools that's right for your demographic. Hey, if you're selling RVs and you're on LinkedIn, you're probably not going to sell RVs. You need to be in the newspaper. Yeah, I actually said it. Traditional marketing, traditional media, the newspaper. If you're trying to reach an older audience, some are on Facebook. The 54-year-old female is the fastest growing single demographic on Facebook, and it has been for the last several years. However, they're not there yet, but they may still be reading newspaper. So you need to determine what the right strategy is for your specific demographic, and then you have to use the right tools to achieve those objectives. And did you measure your success? That could be a whole presentation in itself. I know you've heard the old term, you can't manage what you don't measure. And too often we run out and we just spend money on marketing. We take out print ads and do radio campaigns, or we create a new website, or we throw a lot of time and resources into Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. But are you measuring it? Have you built in ways? For example, if you're going to do a direct mail piece, how do you measure that? Well, you can create a unique URL or web page that Google and the other search engines have never indexed, and you simply drive traffic from that direct mail piece to that web page. And then you wait 24 hours, 48 hours, a week, whatever you think is a reasonable amount of time, and simply look at the number of times that page was opened. Just that simple. Look at your Google Analytics or your server reports, and you'll know exactly how many people went from that direct mail piece over to that web page. Just that simple. And you need to have those kinds of simple measuring tools built into everything that you do so that you know, and here comes the other saying, I know that half of my advertising isn't working. I just don't know which half. Well, if you build in measurement tools, measurement devices in all of your marketing, you will always know what's working and what's not working, so you can keep doing what's working and you can simply stop doing what's not. And what were your goals, objectives? What was your conversion strategy? Did you have 3, 4, 5 clear, solid objectives, things that you wanted to accomplish that you were simply going to use these tools to accomplish? You have to set your objectives, figure out ahead of time, what do I want this campaign to do, and which are the appropriate tools I'm going to use to achieve those objectives. You have to have a solid conversion strategy. It isn't just about having lots of friends on Facebook. That might make you feel good about yourself, but you know what would make you feel better is money in your bank account. Have to have a strong conversion strategy. And how did you come to the conclusion that social media didn't work? It's just like any other marketing. The smart companies, the companies that really have social media figured out, are the ones that aren't keeping it separate from their conventional marketing. They tie it together. They integrate it. It's all part. That's the whole concept. If you look at the bottom left-hand side, you see the book cover, Fusion Marketing. That's the concept of fusion marketing, is the companies that are going to be successful are the ones that fuse social media, digital media, and traditional media into one set of tools. So how did you know it's not working? Well, if you take out a newspaper ad or do a radio campaign, you may see an increase in revenue, or you just may benefit from brand awareness, brand engagement. More people know about you so that when they are ready to purchase, they'll come to you first. So don't write off the fact that social media didn't work because you didn't see an increase in revenue. What is the length of your product or service buying cycle? What is the length of the buying cycle? It could be almost instantaneous, like an impulse item that we buy at a grocery store, or it could be as much as 9 months to 3 years, like with a new automobile. So you have to give social media time. It's not I'll get it done and then sit back and wait for the revenue. And how did you define social media success? Again, if you've got 5,000 people following you on Facebook or on Twitter, that's a lot of brand engagement. That's a lot of brand awareness. So remember, not everybody is ready to buy your product or your service at the exact moment that you send out a tweet. But based on your buying cycle, 6 months, 9 months from now, they're going to buy from you and not your competitor. And that is where the best ROI is in social media. Excuse number 17. We already do social networking. We have a Facebook page and we sent out some tweets. Yeah, okay. And that actually seems to be the definition of most social media experts, with experts or gurus in parentheses, because they know how to set up a Facebook page and they sent out some tweets. Guess what? You're not doing social networking just because you understand those two tools. It's like trying to build an entire house from scratch using nothing more than a hammer and a screwdriver. You need all of the tools, and you need to get them working together. Facebook and Twitter, yes, those are probably the two most important, possibly for your demographic, maybe not, but it really is just the beginning. That's how you start creating a social networking strategy. What are you doing with your Facebook page? What are you doing with it? How are you converting? How are you monetizing the people that come to that page? Where are you driving them after they come to Facebook? Just because they like you, that's not the end of the story. What are you tweeting about? Are you spamming people? Are you tweeting about your plane being 10 minutes late, or you're having bacon with your eggs? Or are you tweeting out things that people want, people that can benefit from, that they could use in their own companies, that sets you aside as a thought leader, as an industry leader? Think about that. And again, what is your strategy, your conversion, and your goals and your objectives? If you don't have that well defined, you're just wasting a lot of time because you're not converting. Have you completely integrated your traditional and digital marketing, or what I call tradigital media? You have to completely integrate it. You have to use your Facebook to drive people to sign up for your email. You have to use your emails to drive people to your next trade show. You have to use your trade show to do product presentations and ask people to follow you on Facebook. You have to, on Facebook, encourage people to follow you on Twitter. You have to tweet about, you see where I'm going? You have to completely integrate it. Are you providing really high WIIFM and IDKT? It's another one that I call it. What's in it for me? And I didn't know that content. If you're sending out nonsense about having bacon with your eggs, I'm going to unfollow you. But if you send me what's in it for me, the information that you're looking at from the perspective of the receiver and how that's going to be received, and whether or not the person reading your information is going to benefit from it. That's what's going to set you aside from everybody else. And it has to have a strong what's in it for me, WIIFM, or an I didn't know that content. I didn't know that. If someone says, wow, I didn't know that, then you win. It's just that simple. They're going to have to benefit from spending time reading your tweets, your Facebook postings. And if you can do that, then you're going to win. And are you trying to sell your products and services? Don't use social networking to sell. Don't ever do that. You'll get flamed, meaning people will call you out on it, because we don't use social networking to sell. We use it to create relationships, which eventually leads to trust, so that as your customer moves through that buying cycle, through the buying funnel, as they get closer to the buy part of that cycle, they'll think of you because of your trusted relationship. Selling turns people off, and people will unfollow, unfriend, unlike you. And are you engaging and participating in conversations? Now, that means all the different conversations that are taking place out there. Are you using things like Google Alerts or Social Mention or TweetDeck or Seismic Desktop? Are you monitoring your brand, your name, your employees, your products, your services, your SKUs? Are you actively pursuing conversations that are taking place about you and your company and your products? You need to do that. I call that cyber surveillance. And it's real simple. Google Alerts is the most powerful, and it's absolutely free. But participate in those conversations. If they're positive, you want to encourage them. If they're negative, you want to diffuse them with facts. Just that simple. But if you don't know if those conversations are taking place, then you can't participate, and they will perpetuate. Those conversations will continue to take place with or without your knowledge, with or without your permission. Excuse number 16. Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean I have to. Yeah, that's exactly what it means. If everyone else, including your competitors, are doing it, that means that you really need to do it. And if you're not doing it, you're going to lose your competitive advantage. You're going to lose an opportunity to connect with your prospects and your customers, because that's where they are. Social media allows you to engage with your current customers and potential customers. This builds trust, which leads to sales. Remember, you don't buy anything from somebody that you don't trust. If you went into a car lot and the salesperson gave you the skeevies, would you buy a car from that person if you didn't trust them? Of course not. And remember, people don't buy products from corporations. They almost always buy product from trusted entities, usually from individuals. So social media allows us to create relationships that lead to trust, and trust leads to revenue. It's really just that simple. And when we talk about social media, what we're really talking about, traditional versus social media, is moving from a monologue to a dialogue. And that's what's got so many marketing people confused about how to properly use social media tools. They're just tools, just like any other traditional tools, except the primary difference is now it's a two-way conversation instead of a one-way push marketing effort. And that's what we've been doing for the last 6,000 years. We've been pushing our message out, and we really never had the opportunity to participate in a two-way conversation with our customers and our prospects. The three most important words when communicating in social media is authenticity, sincerity, and transparency. If you're not transparent, your customers will see right through you. Yeah, I know that sounds like I'm being cute, but it's really true. You have to be yourself. You have to be sincere, because if you're not, people will tell. And that's another thing, is that a lot of companies will hire out their communication on social networking. Other people do their tweets. Other people do their Facebook postings. You know what? That's not going to work. It has to be in your persona. It has to be who you are. So unfortunately, you really need to do it yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that every hour you got to stop what you're doing. There's ways where you can schedule your tweets and your Facebook wall postings and all of your social networks. You can do it all at one time, or have someone else do it for you. Just speak into a digital recorder, put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and just list out all of the information that you would communicate to your customers, and then schedule it ahead of time. It's just that simple. And everyone, including your competition, actually is doing it to one level or another. Some are successful, some aren't. But that's kind of the whole thing is you need to be out there and you need to be using these tools more successfully than your competition. Excuse number 15. There are so many tools that are similar. Yeah, they really are. I mean, Facebook is similar to LinkedIn, but it's really not. LinkedIn is one of the world's most trusted, most valuable online professional networking system. It's a database of every professional person. I mean, 200 million professional people. So anytime I need to find somebody, say for example, recently I needed to get contact with the executive vice president of Ford. Who does social media. I didn't even know who that was, and it turned out that it was Scott Monty. And I went to LinkedIn, I typed in Ford, and I saw Scott's name under Vice President of Social Media Marketing, and I realized that I knew somebody who knew Scott. So I asked that person to please send Scott my email, pass it on, and within 30 minutes, I got an email back from the Executive Vice President of Ford. There's no other tool out there that you can have that type of immediate response. And the reason it worked was I had a trusted relationship with this one person, and that person had a trusted relationship with Scott Monty, and by asking her to pass my email on, that trusted relationship also passed on. Now, Facebook is completely different. Twitter is completely different. Twitter is simply text. You're limited to 140 characters. We all know what Facebook is. So while the tools seem similar, they all have different purposes. No matter how many places, you need to be in all of them, because the good news about social media is it's very effective. It reaches a lot of people. The bad news is that up until social media, we had primarily 20 different ways with traditional marketing that we communicate. And every company used the same basic 20 tools. And if you want to know what those tools are, they're in the Fusion Marketing Bible. And then social media came out. There's 20 major categories in social media marketing. Well, when that social media became popular, it fragmented. It broke up our demographics and spread them out of now, instead of just 20, 40, 50, 60 different places. And so the tough thing right now for us as marketers is to understand how fragmented and where our fragmented audience now has been distributed. That's why we need to be everywhere. Now, I'm not asking you to do everything. Focus on the trinity of social media. I call this the Trinity. It's the three most important things that you can do with social networking. And you could probably accomplish 90% of everything you need to do just by doing these three things: blogging, microblogging, and social network. Blogging allows you to create multiple pages with your industry keywords and your URL, your unique landing page, your home page, your domain name. And that creates what's called Google Juice. Lots and lots of indexed pages that contain industry keywords and your domain. That will drive you higher and higher on all of the search engines. Plus, it'll set you up as a perceived industry leader. If your customers and prospects type in your industry keywords and you show up in the first, second, third position on Google, that's going to impress them, and you're going to get the business, and your competitors won't. Microblogging, for all intent and purposes, really is Twitter, but I don't call it Twitter because, say for example, within your company, if you have multiple employees, you wanted to set up a Twitter type technology inside of the firewall so you can tweet, but only your employees would see it, no one outside. You can use a product like Yammer. And when I wrote the Social Media Bible first edition, there was another company called Pounce, which I thought was a better technology than Twitter, and unfortunately they went out of business. So microblogging just means text messaging to and from groups with the 140 character limitation. And of course, social networks are all the networks that we've been talking about, whether it's LinkedIn, MySpace, Twitter. Those are the networks that you need to focus on. And then also, WordPress is a very important solution, because if you're going to blog, please don't do it on blogger.com or typepad, because all of the Google juice, all of the index pages that you're creating, that the search engines are indexing, are all giving credit to the blogger.com domain, not your company's domain. So by setting up WordPress, which is free and only takes about 10 minutes, on your website and blogging on your website, you get all of the credit from the search engines, not blogger.com or typepad. Excuse number 14. There's too much meaningless noise online. Yeah, and that's what we've been talking about. I wrote a blog for Fast Company. I called it Twit or Tweet, meaning that either it's a valuable tweet and I'm going to read it, or you're a twit. I don't want to follow you anymore. Just don't do it. I mean, every once in a while to say that you're doing something personal, like, hey, I'm presenting in Mexico for Tweet to Be Heard conference, and it's going great and I love it. You know, that's fine. But just tweeting for the sake of tweeting is just going to tick off any of your followers. So don't do it, because people are going to take the advice from this presentation and they're going to unfollow you, unfriend you, unlink you, unsubscribe you, unfeed you. And be proactive. You create the meaningful conversations. Don't just participate in the conversations that Google Alert identifies. You need to be proactive. Go start a group on LinkedIn for using your industry keywords. Get the conversation going on Facebook. Have a tweet stream using a hashtag. And if you don't know what that is, Google it. Don't have time to talk about it here. But get a hashtag conversation going on Twitter. Be proactive. You create the conversations. Because remember, when you create the conversation, you at least have some control over the direction that conversation is going to take. Excuse number 13, privacy issues, loss of control. I hear that all the time, especially in big companies. Now, if you're a financial institution, like a bank, a credit card company, okay, yes, there are some restrictions. You got to be really careful. You have compliance issues. Now, the compliance issues you have does not mean that you won't be able to participate in social networks. For the most part, it just means that the people who are holding these conversations need to have a little bit of common sense, and you need to save those conversations. You need to archive them in case there's ever a problem. And that's pretty much it. And if you're not a financial institution, then guess what? You don't have any compliance issues. And there's very few industries that actually have strict compliance. Medical, it's got HAPA and some of the others, but that's about patient information, privacy, and you're never talking about patient specific information in public. So not a problem. And remember, the internet is public. The internet is public. Now, we've been talking about Google Juice, the number of pages that are indexed in Google using my name and industry keywords. Last time I checked, there was about 321,000 pages that mentioned me specifically. But you won't find my wife's name. You won't find my kids' names. You won't find my dogs' names if I have dogs. You won't find my cell phone number anywhere out of those 321,000 pages. You know why? Because since 1994, I realized that the internet was public. And I never put anything on the internet that I wouldn't put on a business card and hand to a perfect stranger. Because I don't care what the privacy settings in Facebook are. Eventually, something is going to happen and that information is going to be made public. And if it's good information, it's going to work to your benefit. And if it's not good information, it's going to haunt you. So if you don't put anything on the internet in any format, in any network that you don't want to make public, then you'll never have a privacy issue. I mean, it's common sense. And don't put anything online you wouldn't put on your business card, period. You control what you put out to the public. You control comments and conversations. You have 100% control. Develop a social media policy? No. Use your existing media policy. Social media is no different than existing media. If your employees are not allowed to walk out into the parking lot and talk to the nightly news trucks that are parked outside your building, if they're not allowed to do that, they shouldn't be allowed to blog. Now, that doesn't mean stop them from blogging. It means train them on what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Clearly state the roles and responsibility for all employees participating in all media on behalf of your company. There is absolutely no reason to segregate social media from all of the other media that's out there. This does require a level of trust with your employees. It always has. And you need to monitor them. You need to be careful. Let them talk. Let them have their conversations. Don't censor them because they do want to talk about your company and about what they do. Excuse number 12. We can't control the message. I hear that all the time too. We can't control the corporate message. It's going to get out of control. You know what? It's not necessarily true either. Social media is the conversation of the customer. It's the fundamental shift in power. We used to be able to control our message. Control, it doesn't happen anymore. There's been a fundamental shift in power where we used to control our message. It was our ability to push out information about our company, and no one else really had the ability because no one else had the money to use traditional marketing to push out any other messages about us because it wouldn't make sense. But because social media is free, this fundamental shift has moved our corporate message into the hands of our customers. And we've all heard it, that a happy customer will tell 7 to 9 people, an unhappy customer will tell 17 to 19 people, and that absolutely used to be true. Because now, instead of telling 17 people, one person on a blog can tell 17,000, 170,000, 1,700,000, depending upon their reach. So controlling the message really is about monitoring the other messages, the messages from our peers, from our customers, from our prospects, and maybe even from our competitors, and trying to control it there. Social media allows you to monitor these conversations about you, your brand, and your competitors. That's the cool thing. It's kind of like having a free clipping service, if you're old enough to remember what that was, because it's instantaneous, it's all free. Any conversation that takes place, you can get sent into your email instantly, usually within 30 minutes of when that blog, web page, or tweet came out. So this is the good thing. We do get to control our message because we can monitor it much more accurately. And people are talking about you behind your back. It's not the schizophrenia, the medication you're on has got that under control, but just because people are talking, don't ignore it. And you need to be aware that more than likely there are conversations, possibly negative, probably mostly positive, but you need to be aware. If sticking your head in the sand doesn't help. And it's better to know what they're saying and participate than not know at all. Because as I said earlier, you have the opportunity to encourage good conversation and diffuse a bad conversation. You need to monitor, engage, understand, and guide that conversation into where you want it to be and not let it take on a life of its own, because that's when it gets out of control. And social media actually gives you more control over your message, and the damage control really works. Simply by diffusing negative conversation with facts, you can pretty much eliminate all negative conversations before they get out of control, before they get too big. Excuse number 11, we can't control our employees. Well, that's true, but you can train them and you can turn them into salespeople. You can turn their passion for what they do with your company, you can get them to participate on your behalf. Now, here's an example. Your employees are using social media with or without your permission. I worked with Intel, the chip manufacturer, and I asked them, I said, do you provide a blogging platform for your employees? And they said no. And I said, okay, have you ever checked to see how many of your employees are actually participating in blogs, talking about Intel? They said, yes. I said, would you share that number with me? They said 6,000. There were 6,000 employees at Intel participating in their own blogs about Intel. Well, 6,000, the horse is out of the barn now. You're never going to get them reined back in. They'll never participate on a company blog site at this point. So you are going to have trouble actually controlling the message that your employees are passing out to the public because you never gave them the proper tools to begin with. Encourage your employees to use social media in the workplace and set the guidelines. If you teach them the proper use of social media, what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, then they'll do that. And you have 6,000 salespeople selling enthusiastically the virtues of your products and services. And writing about the products and services, clients can be sensitive. So train your employee, educate them. Don't tell them no, because as Confucius says, a handful of sand, the harder you squeeze it, the faster the sand passes between your fingers. So don't squeeze them, teach them. And your employees are your biggest fans, your strongest proponents, and your best salespeople. And in the case of Intel, there's 6,000 out there spreading the word, evangelizing Intel's products and services. Excuse number 10, it doesn't fit the company's brand. I've heard that too, and that's kind of ridiculous. Sometimes you do need to lighten up a little bit. Have a little fun. Be a little bit playful. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then here's a homework assignment for you, and I will check on you. I want you to go to YouTube, and I want you to type in "Will It Blend?" And here's the president of a blender company in Orem, Utah, that makes home blenders, that is having a heck of a lot of fun showing how powerful and how dependable his blenders are. That's all I'm going to say. Your homework assignment is to go watch several of the videos on YouTube. Type in "Will It Blend?" And social media is not a fad, and best practices for PR, marketing, customer service, business development, and sales. If you participate in any one of those categories, PR, marketing, customer service, business development, and sales, you got to embrace social media. You have to participate. And it's not a fad. It's not going away. When you have 1 billion people participating in just one network alone, it's pretty much here to stay. So embrace it. And consider, is your company's culture, and go with it. What is your company's culture? You know what? If it's not playful, you may want to reconsider it. I'm not saying do stupid things, but I am saying people enjoy seeing people be themselves, act like humans. And trust me, your brand will be fine. You'll survive perfectly well. Here's just kind of an idea that I came up with a couple of years ago. And it's something invented. They said, "Man, you're like a round peg in a square hole. You just don't fit." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. I am a round peg in a square hole, but I do fit." And nobody understood what I meant, so I went back to my workshop and I made this little diagram of a round peg fitting perfectly into a square hole. So remember, your round peg will fit perfectly into the square hole of social media if you position it properly. Excuse number 9, our customers are not on social networks. Yeah, not true. Whoop, I need to update that. It says 800 million people on Facebook. They actually, on September 14th of this year, they broke 1 billion people. 1 billion people on Facebook. That's absolutely amazing. And then the question is have you actually participated in all the major social networks? Have you looked at the statistics? Everybody is running statistics on all. There's about 200 million people in LinkedIn. There's over 100 million people on Twitter. And again, remember, you think your customers are not on social networks. They are. And trust me, your competitors are on social networks. The learning curve limits its usefulness only to geeks. Yeah, the geek shall inherit the earth. Creating and filling out an entire profile, name, username, password, email, and one click with Open Social. You know what? It's not hard. If you want to, the easiest way to understand how easy or how hard it is to participate in each one of these networks is to go try them. If you don't have a profile on a particular network, there's something called Open Social. What you do is you go in, you say you want to fill out your profile, and then there's usually a pull-down menu where you can select Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. And just by clicking on one of those networks and putting in your password for that network, it will go and pull all that information from that network and it will propagate it into this profile that you're trying to fill out. So really, it only takes like one click. It only takes a few minutes. And if you're not comfortable with Facebook and timeline and some of the things, have have you asked someone to demonstrate it? Have you looked on YouTube for a video that demonstrates it? YouTube is loaded with how-to videos on all the social networking sites. Take a couple of moments and just ask for help. It's really not that hard. And online followers engage, rebroadcast, and otherwise amplify your communication efforts. So this is kind of an important bullet point. It's not necessarily only about the size of your network. Say, for example, on Twitter, you've got 2,000 followers. Well, each of those people that are following you, as long as you got good information, good content, I didn't know that, what's in it for me content, they're going to pass it on. So think about it. If each of the people in your network had the same size network and passed it on, then that's 2,000 times 2,000. And if each of their networks had 2,000, that's times 2,000. So literally, by sending out a tweet, you can actually be connecting your brand with 1 million people, and that can happen within 60 seconds. There's no other media on earth that gives you that opportunity. And as I said earlier, the fastest growing social network demographic is women over 54 years old, and that's particularly with Facebook. So when you look at the demographic, you pretty much have everybody from 6 to 90 using pretty much all of the networks. And that's anti-geek. It's not just the geeks that are using it. These systems are really easy to use now. Excuse number 7, lack of expertise. You've heard the old saying, any 9-year-old kid can do it. Well, then I suggest that you go find a 9-year-old kid and have them do it for you or teach you. Because trust me, every 9-year-old kid can whip through the internet, whip through Facebook as fast. Okay, yeah, I know, you're distracted by that kid over there. Yep, believe it or not, that's me. Hard to believe, isn't it? And we're all still learning. All of this is still... It's still growing. It's still changing. How we use it is changing. Facebook rules and techniques are changing. LinkedIn, all of them are changing. New social networks. You know, a year ago, nobody ever heard of Pinterest. Now it's one of the biggest participating social networks on the internet. Instagram is another one that's caught on. So yeah, there's changes. Now, I hear a lot of times I'm over 50 and I can't do it. You know what? That's good for the younger audience, but you know, I'm older. Hey, I'm over 50 and I actually wrote the book on it. An 800-page book on social media. If I can do it, you can do it. There's no excuse. And lack of expertise. Okay, so maybe you don't like to write, or maybe you don't want to do text messaging or Twitter. Well, find people in your organization. Find people who work with you. Find people in your own family that would be willing to help. So I guarantee, ask your administrative assistant if they like to write. They probably do, and they would love to manage your Facebook page. They would love to blog on your behalf. They would love to send out the text messages and Twitter, and they'd be honored if you asked them. So find people that you know that could actually help you create some of the content that either you may not feel comfortable with or don't know how. Don't worry about it. There's people out there to help. I hear this all the time. We're B2B. There's no reason, business to business, there's no reason for us to engage our customers. You know what? Social media doesn't discriminate. It blasts out to everybody. And I don't care if you're B2B. In my opinion, B2B is still B2C because the second B is still a C. And what that means is that if you're a business to business, you're still a business to a customer, because on the other end, it's an individual that works for that second B, that business, that's going to be buying your product or your service. You have to sell that person. So B2B is still B2C. And social networking, by far, is the most effective tool to build a relationship with an individual that represents that second B, that business. Because remember, B2B is still all about building relationships, because relationships lead to sales. Social media provides those tools that allow you to do that. Remember, trust sells. So it's not a good excuse if you're a B2B and don't think that social media is for you. Excuse number 5. I'm going to stick with what works for our business. We've been fine without it. Okay. Again, social media is not a fad. You might have been fine without it, but times are changing. And if you don't change with the times, you're going to be left behind. Again, what's the cost of missed opportunity in lead generation, repeat sales, new sales, and customer support? If your customers are looking for you on social networks and you're not there, you will lose those sales. It's just that simple. There's a reason that Fortune 500 companies are embracing social media. This should be enough to warrant consideration for anybody, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or, like me, a one-person business, an entrepreneurial company, or anything in between. Government agency, educational institution, for-profit, non-profit, it all works the same. It's still about connecting with other people. And how effective is your current marketing? Is both halves of your marketing working, or is half of it not working, like we talked about earlier? And which half isn't working? I can guarantee that if you invest in social media marketing, it will work. And what's your cost of customer acquisition? Have you ever actually sat down and determined what each new customer costs you? Add up all of your expenses for every campaign that you did last year. Get a yellow pad, a whiteboard, an Excel spreadsheet. Lock yourself in your office. Get your coffee, your Starbucks, your crack cocaine, whatever your stimulant of choice is, and write down all of the different campaigns that you did last year. I did trade shows, and each of the trade shows. I did direct mail pieces, and here's each of the direct mail piece campaigns. I created new web pages, whatever they are, and add in every single expense, and then simply look up in your records, how many new customers did you make last year? How many new sales? Even if it was a repeat customer, you still had to work to get that customer to be a repeat customer. How many sales, not dollars, but number of transactions did you make last year? And then appropriate each of those transactions to that trade show. How many sales did you make as a direct response to that trade show? And then write that number down until you've accounted for all of your transactions. And then simply divide. And you'll see that that trade show cost you this amount of money and you picked up this number of new customers and generated this amount of dollars, if you want to be very specific. That way you will see what's effective and what's not effective. And that's what we're talking about, is determining the cost of customer acquisition, how much each customer costs you. Excuse number 4, we'll stick with traditional media. And you know what? Older companies that have been around for more than 10 or 15 years, I hear this all the time. We're just going to stick with traditional media. Well, again, it may be working for you, but I guarantee that even if it is working for you, the effectiveness is declining, and it's declining at an astonishing rate that you're probably just not aware of. Really, how is traditional marketing, traditional media working out for you? Do you have more customers than you can handle? Do you have more revenue than you can handle? Well, if you don't, it's probably not working for you, but you just want to feel that it is. Newspapers are closing at an alarming rate. Local radio and television stations are disappearing daily. They're going syndicated, and magazines cease to exist for good reason. Traditional media outlets are using social media. A little bit too little and a little too late, but you hear it on the nightly news. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. They never say why, which is part of the reason that they don't have a strategy behind the tools. And did you know that last Christmas the New York Times asked a Mexican investor, an entrepreneur in Mexico, to actually help him make payroll? Yeah, that's how serious it's getting. I mean, the world's oldest newspaper ditches newsprint. Sweden's Post och. I'm not even going to try to. It was founded in 1645. It closed its doors. The Ann Arbor News closes. 174-year-old newspaper. It's gone. The owners of the Philadelphia Inquirer, Daily News, and Philly.com offer major creditors $15 million to bring the company out of bankruptcy. And the 146-year-old Seattle Post-Intelligencer shut down. So, there's reasons. This is an alarming trend. So I'm not saying don't stick with traditional media, but be aware that it is becoming less and less and less effective because everyone is moving online. Excuse number 3, traditional media and audiences are still bigger. We'll do new stuff when they do. The audiences are not bigger. They're getting smaller and smaller. They're getting more fragmented. Facebook with 1 billion members, LinkedIn, YouTube, MySpace, New York Times. Look at this. The New York Times was one of the world's leading premier newspapers for over 100 years. And they have 1 million readers. Facebook has 1 billion members. Do you see? And if you look at primetime TV audiences since 1984, do you see that there's a clear trend here? It's a trend, and it's trending down. So traditional, really, the audiences are fragmented over 140 cable stations, more than a dozen prime radio station, television stations. So we're being fragmented. People aren't watching TV the way they used to, if at all. People are not reading magazines. They're not reading newspapers. They're moving online, and you need to also. Okay, we're getting down to the end here. All right. Excuse number 2, it will require too many resources. Well, just like any other marketing campaign, social media will require some resources, and we've talked about that through this presentation. You will have to put some time of implementation. You'll have to come up with some really good objectives, develop the right tools for your demographic, and determine the right tactics to satisfy those objectives, to achieve those objectives, and create a solid strategy. But you have to do that with traditional digital and social media marketing. But the thing, again, that sets social media aside from everything else, there's no media buys, there's no monthly fees, there's no clipping services, no printing, no folding, no saddle stitching, no envelopes, no stuffing, no postage, and no hard costs whatsoever. That's the power. So will it require too many resources? No. It will require people to monitor it, to engage, to participate. But you know what? You're paying people to do that if you're doing traditional media anyway. But you have none of the hard costs. So you're crazy not to do it. Number 1 excuse, and I put this as the number 1 excuse because it's always the number 1 excuse. Where's the ROI? I'm asked that all the time. Well, where is the ROI? Let me give you an example. Your cell phone is probably your most expensive business tool that you use. It's more expensive than the internet. It's more expensive than pretty much anything that you're doing, certainly anything you're doing with social media. Where's the ROI on your cell phone? If keeping your cell phone was based on ROI, you would have to give up your cell phone. But you know from a business perspective that that would be crazy. So where is the ROI? Where's the ROI on taking a print ad? Can you determine the exact rate of return on that investment? Well, social media will have an immediate impact on your brand recognition. It's going to have a long-term effect as well. Social media takes time, but what successful advertising campaign doesn't? It's going to take time. Social media is about revenue generating and cost savings. You earn more money and you spend less, and that's the perfect equation. You're going to get more traffic to your website, more positive mentions, more conversations taking place about you, your products, your service, your company. You're going to get more traffic, which is going to eventually end up on your telephone. If you have an e-commerce site, eventually you're going to have more traffic to that e-commerce site, and you're going to have more traffic to your on-ground events. So there is ROI. It's just like marketing. There is a strong ROI, but it takes time to recognize that rate of return on investment. So how should you ask the questions about social media? And here's what I get from the C-suite. That's CEO, COO, CFO, CMO. I get the same exact question, and they just crack me up. And the first time that I responded, I was really nervous because I thought I might have been a little bit too fresh, but they got the message. And the question that always comes up, should I do social media marketing? And what I say, take the word social media out and ask that question again. Should I do marketing? Because remember, social media tools are just marketing tools. That's it. So should you do marketing? Yeah, only if you want your company to exist. The next question I get asked is, how much should I spend on social media marketing? And I say, let's try that again. take the word social media out and ask that question again. How much should I spend on marketing? And of course, the answer is as much as you possibly can, because marketing is what's going to generate revenue. I mean, it comes down to that. And where's the ROI on social media marketing? Where's the ROI on marketing? So pretty much anytime you ask a question that contains the word social media marketing, I just simply want you to remove the word social media, ask that question again, and you'll get the answer almost immediately. All right. Cool presentation. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time. To learn more about everything that I've been talking about here, take a look at the Social Media Bible, or take a look at the Fusion Marketing Bible. It's what's next. It's my latest bestseller. It gives you the tools to create a really comprehensive, useful marketing plan. And resources. Go to lonsafko.com, and I'm available for keynotes, consulting. But more importantly, if you own either of these two books, just sign up, get a password, go to Extreme Digital Marketing, go to the FusionMarketingBible.com, go to Social Media Bible, and help yourself to all of the free content that I've put in there, all of the resources that are in there available to you. Thank you for your time.